everybody. I am Sherri Murphy with Coldwell Banker Realty, the ultimate real estate group. And this is Joe New with Cross Country Mortgage. And Joe, the big topic today is buy downs.
Buy downs. Oh, my goodness. I may be the only loan officer old enough to remember what those are like.
Right. I know. Me too.
I sold those 22 years ago or something, right?
I know. It's been a long time since we've been in this kind of market. Nobody really knows what they are, or they don't understand exactly how they work. So I was hoping maybe you could explain that to us today.
I can. I'm going to give you a little history.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why it's important, and then I'm going to show you how they work. Fair enough? Fair
enough. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Okay.
And by the way, I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be on here with you. I love you, and I love working with you, and what you do and how you serve your clients is really cool, by the way.
Well, thank you. And same here. We admire you too, and we are so honored to be able to send our clients to you.
Yeah.
You work with them. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So let me just share the screen with you real quick, and I'll go through a few slides, and then we'll kind of get in the meat and potatoes of it, okay?
Okay. Awesome.
So it's really not about the dots, right? Seth Godin says it's not about the dots. It's not about the data points. It's about connecting the data points and helping people see what this looks like on a, down the road a little ways, right? And so I want to kind of go through and share some things here with you. Let me see if this is not working. Oh, it is. Okay. So the historic piece of this is that we're in kind of historic times, not just from an interest rate perspective, not just from a lack of inventory, not just from the fact that we have more home buyers than we have sellers, but 68.7% of all homes in America are either paid off or have more than 50% equity. Right. Never in our history have we had that. In fact, I think the number was 35% of all homes sold last month were cash. I think that's unprecedented. I think that's interesting. Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know it's amazing. Most of my buyers are all cash buyers these days.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it really, truly is.
Yeah. So, and then I think before we get into why a 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy down is important and how it works, I think it's important to know why in this market we're suggesting it, right? And so this chart shows from 1955 to today. That red chart here is the Fed funds rate, and the little gray bar you see here, I think there's like 11 of them, 10 of them. Those are periods of time when the economy was in a recession. And if you look at what happens every time before and during the middle of a recession, the Fed funds rates runs up because they're trying to reduce inflation, right? And if you look at what happens after, either in the middle of or after the recession, every time, not every other time, but every time, you can see that the Fed funds rate comes down. Well, that drives interest rates down as well. The fact that the Fed funds rate is dropping doesn't really do a lot for the interest rate, but the fact that inflation is curbed does a lot, right? Sure. So in every time, and if history is any indication of the future, this is going to happen this time as well. Okay.
Right.
Couple of slides. I kind of want to show this to you. It is we broke it down in the last 6 recessions. You go back to the 80s and we were in it for 6 months and rates went from 16% to 11.8. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. You get down to the Great Recession, right? The only one anybody ever remembers. Right. And we were in it for 18 months and rates went from 6% to 4.9.
Right.
And it wasn't every other time, right? It was every time we go through a recession. That people didn't even know we were in a recession during COVID, and rates went from 3.8 to 2.8, right? I mean, Who knew, right? So I'm of the opinion that rates are coming down sometime in the next 18 to 24 months. And I think this is a temporary inconvenience. The problem is that we have 2 decades of people, my kids' age, your children's age, that have never known interest rates above 4%. And I think it scares them to death. And they go, oh, my Lord, what's going on? And so let me kind of break some of this down for you. By the way, this is what the mortgage bankers' projections are going to be are for the next 4 quarters.
Okay.
And we averaged it over to the side. I can tell you this, they're not right. but that's their best guess. If you'd looked at this back in May, you would have they would have been predicting 5.5 or 5.25. But we believe it's going to be better, right? And so I don't want to get into the cost of waiting. So let me show you the buy down, right? And why that's important to you. There's two types of buy downs, right?
Right.
So if you were a listing agent today, instead of a price reduction, if you take a $500,000 house and you reduce it by 5%, $25,000, it moves the needle just about this much when it comes to payment, right?
Exactly.
A buy down does something bigger than that, right? You have a permanent buy down. And the way you would read this, and this is a chart that I took off of our rate sheet a few weeks ago, 5.125, that rate's out there. That cost is 90.794. A par rate, meaning an even rate, is 100. So anything under 100 is like a cost. Like if you added this 9.206 together with the 90.794, it would give you 100. It means that somebody would pay $46,000 to buy the rate down to 5.125, right? And so when you start, this market's not working like it normally does. So I think at this point in time, we were at 7.5% or 7.75 or something like that. Just to get the thing down to 6.875 was costing like $11,000. Wow. That money is a permanent buy down that the buyer can choose to pay. My concern with that is that the rates are going to reduce in the next 24 months, and that money will be wasted because you'll be refinancing it and you will have not had time to recoup the $11,000 that you spent. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And that's exactly why I wanted you to explain this, because it's not worth it. People are saying to me, oh, well, I want the permanent buy down, but you're not going to recoup it quick enough.
You don't, but because the chances are you're going to be refinancing in the next 24 months.
Exactly.
So let me show you a better way. It's called a seller temporary 2-1 buy down. You can do it as a 3-2-1 buy down, but ultimately here's the way it works.
Okay.
In this comparison, that's over here to the far left, right? It says, hey, I'm borrowing $500,000. Right. And I just stuck a number in here, 7.75. I think rates today are a little less than that with great credit, and put 20% down, but it'll be somewhere close. Okay. Right. That monthly payment's $3,582.06. That is your fixed rate. Okay. And you're probably going to have to pay a little money to get that rate. But a 2-1 buy down is the ability for a seller, instead of reducing the price of his house, right? He could say, look, I want to offer special financing on this house so that I can create affordability for the buyers who are scared to death of this 8% rate. They know rates they're on the fence because they know rates are going to come down at some point in time. Right. Exactly. This is a way for you to buy now, capture the equity. Okay. Yep. And then be able to live in your home for the next 24 months with a lesser payment that's more flexible to get you to the point you refinance. So let me show you how it works. Okay. So 358206 is a 30-year fixed number. In year 2, if the seller would do this, if the buyers will ask the sellers to do this and they agree, then they're going to make a 5.75% payment, right? And that payment's $2,917. Real quick math, that's about $600 a month. Right. That's a lot different. That's affordable, right? That's building an affordability. Exactly. And you're going to pay that. If you annualize that payment, there's a little number down here that says year 1 escrow at the bottom. It says $7,970. That's the annualized payment of the 5.75. Okay. Right. Well, in year 2, you're not going to make a 2% less payment. You're going to make a 1% less payment. Right. Hence the name 2-1 buy down. And that payment's $3,242.99. Right. Right. In this scenario. And that's an escrow amount of $4,068.85. If you take the $4,000 escrow in year 2 and the escrow in year 1, it's going to show up at $12,039.21. So here's how this works. This is really cool. Yeah. That money goes into an escrow account. right? That the servicing company, we're going to service this loan.
Right.
And every month when the buyer makes the $2,917 payment, we're going to pull from that escrow account and we're going to make the investor whole. We're going to pay the difference between the 2917 and your 30-year fix, which is 3582.
Right.
So this goes on for 2 years. Let's say at the end of year one, yields have come back and inflation's 2% and the Fed's all happy and they start reducing the Fed funds rate and interest rates get to 6% or 5.5% or whatever that number is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Whatever balance is left of this $12,000, okay,
yeah,
that's your money. Right. You can use it any way you want to. You can pay for your refinance with it. You can reduce the principal reduction of your loan. You can buy the rate down at that point in time permanently that would benefit you long term. And so today after 22 years in this business, I'm going, this is the ticket. This builds affordability, gives you the flexibility to help pay for some things in the future for you, and you're not tied into something less than you wanted with a permanent buy down.
Right.
It fits if you're a seller, it makes sense to talk to you as a listing agent about not reducing the price of the house, but creating affordability.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And
yes.
if you're a buyer, it's a way to get you in, grab the equity you're going to grab in the first 2 years.
Right.
Because we can do we should do another class on the cost of waiting, because I think these two come together really nicely. Yes. But that's the way it works.
Right, exactly. And so going back to the seller part of it, if a seller is saying, well, I need to reduce my listing price by, say, $20,000. No. Let's do this. Let's offer the 2-1 buy down and only pay $12,000. You're still saving $8,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a win for everybody. The sellers have moved their home. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to reduce it 5%, right? In a $500,000 home, 5% is $25,000, right?
Right.
They reduced it 12.5 or 2.5%. The buyer's got a really good deal because you create affordability for them, and everybody wins. And you and I both know we've negotiated enough contracts that a good deal is when everybody wins.
Right, exactly. And this makes the buyers feel so much more comfortable going in with that lower payment now. So, and I agree, we need to follow this up with the cost of waiting with the equity.
Yeah, we do.
You're losing if they don't act now.
Because that is a big deal and people are going to wish they had.
Right. I agree. You said, I think the other day, that they're expecting appreciation again, another 6% next year. Is that correct?
So even if it doesn't, if it was 3%, it'd be a windfall.
Right.
Right. So we're going to finish this year somewhere around 6.25% appreciation. It may be a little higher in this market.
Right.
But nationally, 6.25%. They're projecting 6% in 2024. I don't know, but let's call it 3%.
Right.
So if you get a home that's worth $500,000, right, and you got 6% 1 year, you got 3%. So at 9%, I mean, it's $45,000.
Sure.
It's a whole nother class, but we should have it.
Yes, absolutely. And we will do that. So, well, Joe, if anybody wants to talk to you about a 2-1 buy down, how can they reach you?
JoeNew.com. All my contact information is there.
Okay.
Joe.new@ccm.com.
Right.
Or my number is 817-721-6067.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me and doing this. So thank you so much. And we will definitely follow this up in the next day or two with another cost of waiting segment.
Let's do it.
So stay tuned, everybody, and we will be back with more information. And Joe, I hope you have a wonderful day.
I'll do it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you next time, everybody.